The last time I got to talk to you guys was post game, and the feelings I mentioned of hurt, frustration, disappointment were validated and rightfully so. But I had a good team meeting yesterday, and our guys have known to move on, right? And we talked about it before, having great focus on the task at hand. We've got a great Temple team. That we head down up to Philadelphia to play. It'll be our first time getting on a plane this year, first morning game. So all those things playing in, right? Losing an hour going east, all those factors we got play into it. It's a team that we've struggled against playing at their place in the past, and we know they're capable. They got 9 preseason all-conference selections. They're first in the country in pass defense. They've got a 6'6" athletic quarterback. They can do a lot of things with the ball in his hands. So we're going to have our hands full, but our guys are focused on the task at hand and excited to move forward.
Frank, and then Jason.
Hey, Ryan. I know one of the major issues with Saturday's loss was, kind of mental mistakes with penalties and turnovers. Is that part of the game easier to correct as opposed to like losing because players didn't know their assignments or something like that?
Yeah, well, look, you're exactly right. I mean, we beat ourselves. Credit to UTSA, a heck of a team, and they're going to win a lot of games. But you're right. I mean, we played behind the chains too often, right? 5 penalties on offense. Post-snap penalties, all that stuff is correctable and fixable. It's not like I can sit there and say, well, man, we got to go find it. It's nothing to do. Those are fixable mistakes and things that we can continue to do and to correct. And I think our guys had that mindset of, okay, we know these are things that we can fix and improve upon, and we're going to have to because it was inexcusable with what occurred on Saturday by beating ourselves. And it's the nice thing is that our players understood it. They took note of it, and they're ready to continue to improve.
And then with this being the first plane flight, the longest trip, is there anything differently that you do this week as opposed to just driving up to Arkansas State?
Yeah, we just got to prepare them and talk about it. I think the understanding that it is a business trip, and half our guys have never been in a true away game, right? We've stayed in the same hotel now for a month straight, on Friday nights, and now all of a sudden we're going to be getting off plane and just understanding, the maturity it takes, the understanding also playing a morning game. I know it's a noon game, about 11 o'clock Central, so our guys are going to have to wake up and go role play. You don't have time all day to sit around and get those extra meetings. So they got to make sure they're prepared. Sometimes when you play a late afternoon or an evening game, right, you get extra meeting time with the guys who continue to go over the assignments. So we got to make sure we're on top of things. We know this is a unique place, and for us, we've got to bring our A game in order to have ourselves a shot.
Jason, and then Mike.
Hey, Ryan, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I wanted to ask about see if there's an update on Austin Myers and Thomas Pickens.
Yeah. So Austin Myers is being evaluated today as we speak, actually. So don't have an update on him. And then Thomas Pickens, I think, is day to day. Keeping our fingers crossed he has the opportunity to play. But still, again, like a lot of those things, we can't get to the doctors on Sundays, and that being our day that we're actually back at it. And then the player's day off is Monday. So a lot of our physician appointments, follow-ups, MRIs are done on Mondays.
And Isaac, he's fine, right? Did he come back in after he got hurt?
He did not, but he's a tough young man. So we'll see. Again, for him, it'll be a day-to-day as well.
Thank you.
Mike?
Morning, Ryan. Situation where you come off such a high with Mississippi State to what happened this past Saturday. What's the psyche of the team even early on in the season from such a high to a disappointing loss as you get ready to start conference play?
Yeah, we always never want to get too high and never get too low. And we talk to them about that stuff. And it's part of it. Just, you're dealing with the emotions of 18 to 22-year-olds and the understanding that, look, one win is not going to define us and one loss certainly is not going to define us. So we have to, and we talked about it. And I think this is going to have to be, as you guys know, college football is ever changing, but a great focus on what's right now and what's in front of us. And because we had someone talk to our team on Friday about the rear view mirror. And in fact, I talked to our staff about it again, man. It does us no good. Now we have a lot to learn from by things that occurred in the past. Absolutely. Right. Good, bad, and ugly. But we need to take that rear view mirror and smash it. And eyes completely forward and detailed in on what we need to do. And it's not just that every week, it's got to be in every single day, because to keep their focus and understand to master the game plan of what we need to accomplish is going to be huge. But look, our guys, as we know, they play hard, and I will never worry about that. It's just, can we keep the focus and the understanding? But they're in the right mindset. They know we got to improve. They know they've got to get better. And I told them in the team meeting, I said, it starts with me. I said, 100%, I've got to get better. And I looked in the mirror this morning when I woke up and I wasn't happy. And I think a lot of you guys feel the same. We know we all got a lot of work to do. And nice thing is, a lot of them are nodding their heads and they understand. And that's part of our, without sounding corny, Mike, that's part of our all in mantra, right? Like, hey, let's all jump in. In fact, when things don't always go your way, you've got to push even harder and go closer as a family. And so I think our young men have bought into that, and got to have a great week of practice.
There's so many firsts, Ryan, throughout a season. With this being the first conference game, which is one of your goals every year, is to win a conference championship. How much has that message resonated with your team, even right after Saturday's game, that, hey, this is the first of what we hope is a conference championship down the road?
Yeah, I don't talk much about championships and all that, but I do talk about the importance of it being a conference game. I've mentioned that to them. In fact, I said that there are a lot of broken hearts this Saturday night in the locker room, but I mentioned, I say, hey, look, man, we're going to have to pick ourselves up off the floor immediately, if not sooner, because we have a conference opponent, and we know every conference game is so darn important. And it starts with this first one, and I think our young men understand that.
Sean from owlsdaily.com.
Hi, Coach. I covered Temple Owls Daily. Curious, you guys both working with freshman quarterbacks. Does it necessarily get easier for a freshman as the season goes forward, or does it get harder too?
Yeah, that's a great question. You would think that playing experience certainly helps and allows you to move forward in the right direction. But, I think it depends, right? They're going to see different things every week. The more they put themselves on film, the more opponents can game plan for whatever it is, right? And that's kind of one of those things. There's some unknowns when a freshman goes out there, because no one's going to very few people are going to put on high school film and say, okay, how do we study this or how do we study that? So you think it gets a little bit easier, but at the same point, as a coach, we also have to be smart and say, okay, what are we putting on this young man's plate? And I think that's trying to find that right balance. And they get comfort the more reps and the more things they see. For us, our young freshman played really well his first two games. Didn't play his best game versus Mississippi State, and I thought he didn't play up to the standards that we want, especially at the quarterback position this past game. So maybe a little bit of dip in play, but we got full confidence that he'll continue to head in the right direction. I think that's the same with any freshman, right? There's going to be bumps in the road. We got a freshman corner, we got a freshman running back, just like you guys playing some of these young guys. There's some bumps in the road that come with it, but you hope they're learning constantly, and that it just continues to build up over time.
When you're sort of preparing for Temple, Mathis at this point, he's just played about 6.5 quarters. Is it? And they've changed a lot schematically because the whole going from Russo to what they're doing now. Is it a lot? Do you sort of have a lot less to go on than you typically do for a conference game when you're in prep? And
yeah, well, normally when you go against the same head coach, same offense scorer, same defense scorer, you expect the same thing, right? Then you put on the film and it's a different defensive scheme as well. And you're saying, wait, I must have missed something. So I flipped back through my notes and I said, okay, it's the same D coordinator, but they're running a different scheme. And so, you almost throw out what was done in the years past, right? You talked about Russo as a, longtime Temple quarterback, and then, just things of the past, and it just even in between games, right? With your other freshmen getting the playing time, in the Boston College game and some of those other deals, and then you put on Wagner and Mathis back in there. So, you've got to be cognizant of all that stuff, understand what is Temple trying to do as an offense, what are they trying to do as a defense, and put together the best game plan that gives you answers against the variety of things we've already seen.
do you think maybe, and I haven't gotten this answer from Temple, do you think they've maybe shifted the defensive scheme to fit the league a little more? Does it strike you that's a possibility?
That is certainly a possibility. I think there's a lot more teams throughout college football. I always say this, it goes in ebbs and flows, and it's weird how in patterns. And we've noticed that in the NFL. but a lot more teams are going to the what I'd call the 3-3-5. It's become in vogue with it was great. Jack Sherrill and those guys back in the day, some of the reporters probably no idea who we're talking about, but with some of that 3-down stuff, that 3-3 stack stuff. Now Iowa State's done a fantastic job over the years. A lot of people have flown out to Ames to meet with them and pull some of that stuff and to study them and what they're doing. And we're seeing more of it, right? Obviously, Tulsa does a lot of that and has had success on defense, Cincinnati. And so teams are seeing that what they're able to do. And a lot depends on personnel, right? When I was interviewing defense coordinators, everyone said, well, your previous defense coordinator was a 4-man front guy. Why wouldn't you do that? But when I interviewed defense coordinators, out of the 6 I interviewed, 5 of the 6 base have a 3-down front. And so, sometimes it's what's your personnel given? What can you do? What's your conference? Maybe if you're in the Big Ten and teams are lining up in 12 and 13 personnel or 22, maybe you have to be more heavy base, right? A more 4-3 base type of scheme. And some of these teams that got into the 3-3-5 type deal was to prevent the RPO. So I think it's a combination of things.
Thanks.
Frank, and then back to Jason.
Hey, Ryan, I know Seth is a pretty confident young man, and you talked about the last 2 games. He struggled a bit. How has he handled that? Is it getting to him at all, or is he still pretty straight and narrow?
Yeah, that's the one thing, Frank, that I love about the young man. I mean, he is a even keel, straight as an arrow. Talk about never getting too high and never getting too low, right? And just the fact that his mindset is, okay, he's going to show up to work every day, right? Whether the score's 62-0 in favor of Memphis or the other way around. I mean, he's going to put his work in. He's going to be dialed in and still have confidence in himself and understand the biggest thing is just continue to learn from the things that he has done well and the things that he's made mistakes on. But I think he's steadfast, and that's what makes him a special quarterback.
I know we've seen David Kemp out there in warm-ups, getting some warm-up. Is he on the other side of the injury that he was dealing with, or is he still struggling with that at all?
Yeah, I struggle to answer those questions for kickers, and that's, Frank, not me trying not to avoid that question, man. I'm a lot better off answering questions about offense, the bigger guys, but kickers, they're different. Just without getting myself into trouble, I've struggled to answer those questions regarding kicker injuries. It's like a golfer injury, man. I don't know. Like,
well, I appreciate it anyway.
Yes, sir.
Jason, and then Mike.
Hey, Ryan, speaking of David Kemp, how much has his absence influenced decision-making just in the flow of a game?
Yeah, Jason, I think that's part of it, right? I mean, look, Joe Doyle was not brought here to be a kicker. He was brought here to be a punter. And you know what? He hit that long field goal versus Mississippi State. And I look back on the game. I try not to have many regrets, but I learned a lot from the mistakes I made. And, maybe I shouldn't have put him in that situation to kick such a long field goal because that's not what he is, his innate nature is to do, right? It's to be a punter. But obviously pleased with the efforts he's done at that. Maybe if we had, someone that was here to just truly kick that was in our lineup, it may affect the decision-making at times. We're still, as you guys know, sometimes we're aggressive on 3rd and 4th downs when we need to be. But does that play somewhere in the back of my mind? Absolutely. I think like every team in the country, you'd love to have a reliable kicker you can rely on all the time. And Joe's been pretty darn reliable, but sometimes that does sit in the back of my mind, especially when we get on the other side of the 50.
And then the last one for me, you mentioned Temple being the number 1 pass defense in the country right now. Does that sort of hamper what you would like to do maybe moving forward offensively? Do you kind of have to try to stick with a run first mentality, or do you want to put more on Seth's plate?
Yeah, look, I think really when I say that, it's just we know what kind of defense that they have and what they've had over the years and what they're capable of. And, we study it and just try to figure out what's the best, right? We've studied teams on film, and then all of a sudden they come out and do something different. So we have to adapt and make sure that we're putting our team in the best position, whether it's run pass options, pass run options, all those things. But We won't deviate from the game plan from what we see on film. Now they got good personnel, and what that does is when they're number one pass defense in the country, kind of tells me, okay, where teams struggled against it, and maybe we can find those answers to give us. But yeah, I mean, look, I told you guys I want to hang the hat on run the football, but we also got to be smart and balanced. If they take away the run, then we've got to attack the pass, and vice versa, right? If they're dropping 8 and and allowing us to be able to run the ball, then we'll execute as accordingly. But got great faith and having a balanced offense attack like we.
Mike?
Ryan, Frank mentioned about the situation with Seth and dealing with the mistake. Well, you mentioned it, how you also have a freshman running back, and Brandon, as hard as he was run this year, had that fumble late in the game. When you're dealing with these guys as young as they are, how do you get them past the mistake to focus on, look, we got to move forward, which is the mantra that you preach anyway?
Yeah, 10 years ago, Mike, I probably would have screamed and yelled and cursed and said things, but I also understand they're 18-year-olds and they've got to be taught that these things can be costly. And I think they know it, right? It'd be one thing if they weren't care about it. I mean, those two young men take a lot of pride, just like a lot of our guys, and the work that's put out there on the field. I say this all the time, and I got this from Mike Tomlin. Your tape is your resume, and what you put on film, what you show, that's who you are. And if you're a guy like Brandon who runs hard and cares so much about playing football the right way and goes and fumbles a ball in the fourth quarter, it hurts. Like, I mean, he didn't want to leave the locker room. Maybe he was down on himself and felt like it was, but look, he's got a lot of carries ahead of him, and he's got a bright future, and we're going to need him. So I told him, I said, hey, learn from this. We can't allow him to have them happen again, but you got to learn from it. And the same with all of our guys. If it's Greg Rubin, a freshman corner that gets beat, guess what? We're going to need Greg Rubin. So you got to keep that confidence. And I think our guys understand that. The biggest thing is learn from it, and let's get it past our system, and let's flush it. Let's move forward.
And one injury question that, Grant, it's been a while since the surgery. You did not know what the time frame would be with him. Where does he stand coming off that surgery? And is he going to be in play sometime this year? Because obviously a backup quarterback is so essential. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So as a follow-up, we're still trying to determine that. He's had multiple appointments. Anytime you have a surgery, it's not, they got to relook at everything, re-examine everything. So I actually do not have that answer for you right now. But we do expect him at some point, hopefully be back. But again, I can't. It's like a lot of those things, hard to put a timetable on until, they get a chance to unwrap everything and take a final look at it.